Hello guys, my name is Ausra and welcome to my podcast Thinking in Sound. Today is number 27 already, and today's question was sent by Marius. He commented on my last podcast where I was whining and crying about how my channel cannot reach the 4,000 hours watch time. So that's what Marius wrote. Your podcasts are great. I am always watching. But how many people have access to practice this art? Really not much. I think this is the main problem. You could talk about it in one of your podcasts in future. For example, in Lithuania, it is even difficult to get instruments for home practice. 10 years ago, I bought from another country and it's really very expensive. For example, piano, it's free for everyone. In lots of advertisements, people give it for free. So the main problem is the instrument. So now today in this podcast, I will reflect a little bit about what Marius wrote. Of course, I'm really thankful, that even Lithuanian organists listen to my podcast. This was a nice surprise for me because most of the time, even if we listen, we never comment. So I really appreciate it a lot. Thank you, Marius. And now about the problem. Yes, of course, it's a problem, the instrument. And today I'm filming this episode near my old piano, which I have all my life. So you can see, it's old and heavy, and so many pianos are given away nowadays. You have advertisements in Lithuania that I give away a piano. You just need to come and pick it up, for yourself. And obviously, you need probably at least 4 or 5 men to carry it. So it's really heavy. But if you really want to practice, that's what you do. For example, when my parents bought this piano for me, man had to bring it up to the 8th floor. That's where I was living most of my life, of my early life. So it was really heavy because the piano did not fit into an elevator. Anyway, now back to the practice instrument problem. As Marius told, it's very expensive, and I think it's not just a problem in Lithuania. I think it's a problem everywhere because we often think about Lithuania, still think about Lithuania as about third world country, but actually it's not, and our prices already basically reached, and even it's more expensive than many of other European countries. Maybe it's still not as expensive as in Scandinavia, for example, Norway, but definitely more expensive than some other European countries. So is it good for organists or not? Basically, probably not, because prices went up, but our salaries probably not, or at least not so much. We have it decreased accordingly to the living standards, and it's really difficult to afford to buy an instrument. So what can you do if you really want to practice, and you really need an instrument? Well, maybe I talk about it after sipping some of the water from my beautiful Secrets of Organ Playing mug. Good water and good mug. So what to do if you don't have money to buy and practice instrument? One thing would be, if you are a church organist, of course you could ask for your priest that he would allow you to practice at church. Of course, it's not always convenient, and maybe an instrument is not always in the best shape, but that's a possibility. What if you are not a church organist and you don't have an access to an instrument? Well, maybe you could find some small church position and play a couple of mass a week for free, let's say and in exchange, in return, you would get, access to practice an instrument. That's a possibility. You should explore that. Well, another thing, of course, it would be to get an instrument for yourself. Marius wrote that he bought an instrument 10 years ago from abroad, and it was very expensive. Now, actually, I don't know if it's a tracker organ, the real pipe organ, or it's electric one. So nowadays, electric organs are not that expensive. Actually, you could find quite cheap ones. Of course, it does not mean that it will be good, but for practice at home, why not? And I'm not advocating, for the electric organs because I'm not really a fan of it myself, but just for practice purposes, having it at home, not, saving your time, why not, another problem, I think, that sometimes it depends on how much do you really want to own your own instrument and to have the organ at home. For example, for us, it was really important, but it's easier for us because we are two of us. We both are organists, husband and wife, so we share our instruments and, since we divide, the cost of it into halves, then it does not seem so expensive. Actually, we bought our tracker organ, real tracker organ 20 years ago. It was built by Lithuanian organ builders from Marijampolė. And it still serves us, and actually did not have any major struggles since that time. And it already 20 years, it serves us really well. So we are really happy about it. Well, and during pandemic, of course, we just bought a virtual organ, which was really good for, that time. And he still uses it. I don't use it so much. But benefits of, electric organ or virtual organ comparing to the real pipe organ is that, if you get a real pipe organ for your home, well, you really need to have space and you really need to live in a house, because if you are living in an apartment, then obviously your neighbors won't be happy about you, practicing the pipe organ at home. And well, that's why we are living in our, garden all year around, and in the sort of not a really comfortable house, but that's what we sort of sacrifice for our major, for our ability, to be able to play organ whenever we want and as much as we want. Electric or virtual organ would be beneficial for people who live in apartments, because you could use your headphones while you practice and don't disturb your neighbors. Of course, when you really need to get like decent instrument, because the one that we have, it makes such a horrible noises of when you release the key, well, it could awake from the dead.
One of these days we will ask for Milda.
Well, and Vidas is already, apologizing for it and saying that we are going to fix it. But anyway, I think that master who built it in Italy, he really wasn't a great master, because we had to glue all the keys together and pedals together, because everything was just simply falling apart. So, although he built also an organ pedal, but Baroque one, for one student of ours, and it's a really decent pedal board. But because the construction of it is slightly different, and the sort of the disposition of a pedal and the position of the screw is different, and it does not fall apart. So it's really nice. But of course, if you don't want to practice only Baroque music all the time, so then obviously it's better to get a universal pedal board. Anyway, so there are possibilities, to do your instrument from separate pieces, let's say not by, let's say, Johannes or Olen or some other firm that, sell the electric organs, but let's say to buy only one keyboard at first, and maybe a pedal add to it, because if you would watch some of the videos on his channel of Secrets of Organ Playing, you could find some videos how he made his virtual organ setups, and you could definitely get some nice ideas from it. That actually you could, get some set for yourself to build it up, and it wouldn't, be so expensive. Maybe the pedal part would be the most expensive, but keyboards really would not. So, and then later you could add, another keyboard, and well, at one point we just had 4 keyboards, but I could not reach that 4th one, and the music score would be really far away. So we just had to give it up, and our friend Paulus now is playing, and using that setup, which works for him, fortunately. So anyway, that's also a possibility. And I think the part of this problem, not having instrument and it's big expensive, is also maybe not having enough of will, or not want it hard enough. That might be a problem too, because if you are thinking that you will get that instrument, and at some point it will pay off, all that money that you invested, then don't have that illusion. It will never pay off. Well, but if really you like what you do and you want to do it with passion and with quality, then you really need to put some effort, and get your practice instrument. I don't know, maybe talk with your colleagues. Maybe, you could, let's see, join together and, buy an instrument, I don't know, for a few organists to practice. That would be a possibility too. But, I remember, just a few years ago, when our dear colleague Gražina passed away from melanoma, just before that, sad act, she was bargaining on buying the electric organ. And she already paid, like the beginner's fee of that, like deposit fee for that instrument. And then her sister tried to sell it to any organist in Vilnius that she knew, and she could not find anyone who would be interested in getting it. So that made me to think if we really are so poor, or we really don't have that will, on getting an instrument, but rather complain and, cry about it. So this is, also the dilemma. What is more important for you? But of course, everybody has to decide for himself or herself, what it's really more important. But obviously, we have bigger problem than other musicians. If you would just play flute, you would never have a trouble. You would always carry your instrument with yourself. It wouldn't take a space, it wouldn't be that expensive and that heavy and all that kind of stuff. So, well, maybe just take one pipe from the organ and play on it. It will be that way easier. Or, you could try and steal, I don't know, some pipes from different organs from various churches and build your own instrument. Of course, I'm just joking, Well, but anyway, maybe, start really building your own instrument. It's not a joke, that's how some organists really also made their instruments. Because for the house organ, what do you need? A keyboard, maybe 2 keyboards, a pedal board, and I don't know, 1 stop, well, 2 stops at the most, pull down pedals, and that's it. So it's not that much.
And it would be a fantastic idea for YouTube channel.
Well, yes, and Vidas already telling me behind the screen that it would be a fantastic idea for your YouTube channel, because he is all so much into YouTube. Okay, guys, I think I entertained you long enough. And please send me more of your questions, because it's so fun to answering them. And let me know what you think about this podcast. maybe you have some nice ideas that we could all share, you know, how to overcome this problem and what the best solution would be. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week in my next video. Bye bye.